The Void Fang Academy had trained killers for 3,000 years, and in all that time, no one had ever made a mistake with enrollment. Until now. Headmaster Zyrax read the name on his data screen for the 5th time, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. The name was simple enough. Marcus Cole. The species classification made his blood run cold. Human. Earth. This must be a joke, he muttered to his assistant, a thin creature named Quellis who handled all administrative matters. I checked it 3 times, Headmaster, Quellis replied, her voice shaking. The enrollment is legitimate. He paid the full tuition through a galactic credit transfer. He submitted all required forms. He even included a letter of recommendation from something called a community college. Zyrax slammed his clawed fist against his desk. The Void Fang Academy was not some ordinary school. It trained the deadliest assassins in the known galaxy. Its graduates worked for crime syndicates, corrupt governments, and wealthy clients who needed problems to disappear. The Academy only accepted students from apex predator species, Vexery shadow stalkers, who could bend light around their bodies. Crethan hunters with armor-plated exoskeletons and acid for blood. Morvathi psychics who could kill with a thought. Humans were none of these things. Humans were soft, squishy creatures from a small planet in an unremarkable solar system. The Galactic Species Registry classified them as Category 12, barely above plant life in terms of threat assessment. They had no claws, no venom, no natural weapons of any kind. They lived for less than a century and spent most of that time doing absolutely nothing dangerous. Send him away, Zyrax ordered. Tell him there has been an error. I tried, Headmaster, Quellis said nervously. He is already here. He arrived on the morning transport. He is currently waiting in the admissions hall. Zyrax groaned and rose from his seat. He would handle this personally. He would explain to this confused human that he had made a terrible mistake, and then he would send him back to whatever boring little planet he had come from. The walk to the admissions hall took him past the training grounds where students practiced their deadly arts. A group of Vexery were learning to throw poison-tipped daggers while invisible. A massive Crethan was crushing training dummies with its 8 powerful limbs. The air smelled of blood and fear and ambition. And then Zyrax saw the human. Marcus Cole sat on a bench near the entrance, looking completely relaxed. He was a medium-sized creature with pale skin and brown hair, dressed in strange tan-colored leg coverings and a simple blue shirt. He had a small bag at his feet and was eating something from a metal container. Mr. Cole? Zyrax approached carefully, studying the human for any signs of hidden danger. He found none. The creature looked about as threatening as a bowl of nutrient paste. Oh, hello. Marcus stood up and extended one of his hands. You must be someone from the school. Nice to meet you. I am Marcus. I have to say, this place is really something. The architecture is amazing. Zyrax stared at the extended hand, unsure what to do with it. There has been a mistake, he said firmly. You cannot study here. This is not a financial academy. This is a training facility for specialized operatives. Oh, I know. Marcus smiled broadly. I figured that out when I saw the weapons training on my way in. Pretty cool stuff. But here's the thing, I already took 2 weeks off work for this. My wife packed me lunches for the whole trip. It would be a real waste to just turn around now. You do not understand, Zyrax insisted. This academy trains assassins, killers. The curriculum includes poison resistance, combat techniques, infiltration methods, and survival training. Students die here regularly. It is extremely dangerous. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Sounds tough, but I did not get where I am by giving up easily. I worked my way through accounting school while holding down 2 jobs. I think I can handle a few challenges. Zyrax felt a strange sensation he had not experienced in decades. Complete bewilderment. This human seemed to have no understanding of the danger he was in. He was talking about assassin training, like it was some kind of career development seminar. Perhaps, Zyrax said slowly, we should let you attend one class. Once you see what we do here, you will understand why you must leave. That sounds fair. Marcus picked up his bag and his lunch container. Lead the way. The first class was poison resistance, taught by a Morvathi named Selisk. Morvathi were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes that could see into other dimensions. They communicated through a combination of speech and psychic projection, and they were among the most feared species in the galaxy. Selisk looked at Marcus with obvious disgust when he entered the classroom. What is this? She demanded of Headmaster Zyrax. Is this a joke? Just give him the standard introduction, Zyrax whispered. He will fail immediately, and then we can send him home. The classroom was filled with students from various deadly species. They all turned to stare at Marcus, and he waved at them cheerfully. Hey, everyone. I am Marcus. Nice to meet you all. Nobody waved back. Several students made threatening sounds. A Crethin in the back row clicked its massive jaws menacingly. Today we begin building poison resistance, Selisk announced, placing a tray of small vials on each student's desk. You will consume each sample. Your bodies will learn to process these toxins. Some of you may experience temporary death. This is normal. Marcus looked at his tray of vials with curiosity. The liquids inside were various colors: red, brown, clear, and black. He picked up the first one and sniffed it. Wait, Selisk moved toward him. You should start with, but Marcus had already drunk the entire vial. Then he drank the second one. Then the third and fourth. These are interesting, he commented. The red one is kind of spicy. The brown one tastes like really strong coffee. And this clear one, he held up the fifth vial, smells like vodka. Is this vodka? Selisk checked her notes with trembling hands. The vials contained capsaicin extract, concentrated caffeine, pure ethanol, and two compounds that were instantly fatal to most species in the galaxy. The human had consumed all of them like they were snacks. This is not possible, she whispered. He should be dead. He should be dead 5 times over. Zyrax watched from the doorway, his 4 eyes wide with shock. The other students had stopped their own exercises to stare at the human, who had just casually consumed enough poison to kill a small army. Marcus finished the last vial and wiped his mouth. Got any more? He asked. Those were pretty good. Not as strong as my father-in-law's homemade hot sauce, but still pretty tasty. Selisk looked at Zyrax. Zyrax looked at Selisk. Neither of them knew what to say. The human was still smiling, completely unaware that he had just done the impossible. So, Marcus said cheerfully, what is next? 2 weeks passed, and Marcus Cole did not leave. Headmaster Zyrax called an emergency meeting of all senior faculty members. They gathered in the conference chamber deep beneath the academy, a room designed to contain the most dangerous secrets in the galaxy. Today, it contained something far more terrifying, a growing collection of reports about the human. He does not sleep, hissed Instructor Cray, a Crethin weapons master whose exoskeleton was covered in battle scars. I watched him for 3 full rotation cycles. Normal students require at least 12 hours of unconscious restoration. The human simply closes his eyes for 6 hours and then wakes up completely functional. That is nothing, interrupted Varth, a Vexery stealth instructor. I observed him during endurance training. He ran until his muscles failed. His legs stopped working entirely. And do you know what he did then? The room fell silent. He crawled, Vorth whispered. He crawled on his hands and knees for another 2 hours. When I asked if he wanted to stop, he laughed and said something about a marathon he ran last year. What is a marathon? Asked Asilisk, still shaken from the poison incident. I researched it, Vorth replied. It is a human ritual where they run for over 42,000 meters without stopping. They do this for fun. Millions of them participate every year. A murmur of disbelief swept through the room. Zyrax raised a clawed hand for silence. There is more. I have been reviewing his medical scans. During blade training last week, he cut his arm quite badly. The wound was deep enough to see bone. Did he require regeneration treatment? Someone asked. He refused it. Zyrax's voice cracked with something close to fear. He said he would walk it off. I had him monitored. The wound began closing on its own within 2 days. His body produced new tissue without any medical intervention. He simply grew his flesh back. Impossible, Cray declared. No species can regenerate without specialized organs or technology. Humans can, Zyrax said grimly. Their bodies contain automatic repair systems. Cuts, bruises, broken bones. They heal from all of it, given enough time. They call this process natural healing and consider it completely ordinary. The xenobiologist, a four-armed Qualix named Mirth, stepped forward with a data tablet. She had been researching Earth and its dominant species since Marcus arrived, and what she had discovered kept her awake at night. I have compiled a full biological report on humans, she announced. What I found is deeply disturbing. Humans evolved on a planet they call Earth. It is classified as a Category 7 death world. Category 7? Sealisk repeated. That cannot be right. Category 7 worlds are considered uninhabitable. Earth has a corrosive oxygen atmosphere that slowly destroys most organic compounds. It has a gravity well 30% higher than galactic standard. The temperature varies by over 100 degrees, depending on location and season. The planet is covered in predators, poisonous plants, natural disasters, and deadly diseases. Mirith paused to let this information sink in. Humans did not just survive on this world. They thrived. They spread across every single environment, frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, even the oceans. They encountered predators larger and stronger than themselves and found ways to kill them. They faced diseases that should have wiped out their species and developed immunity. They are the ultimate survivors. But they are so soft, Cray protested. They have no armor, no claws, no venom. That is precisely what makes them dangerous, Mirith explained. Because they lack natural weapons, they develop something far worse: intelligence and persistence. On Earth, humans practice something called persistence hunting. They would select a prey animal something faster and stronger than themselves and simply follow it. For hours, for days if necessary. They would not attack. They would just keep following until the prey collapsed from exhaustion and terror. Then they would walk up to it and kill it. The room had grown very quiet. Their bodies produce a chemical called adrenaline during stressful situations, Mirith continued. This compound suppresses pain, increases strength, and accelerates their reflexes. They essentially drug themselves automatically when threatened. They also produce cortisol during extended hardship, which allows them to function through conditions that would kill other species. So they feel no pain? Vorth asked. They feel pain, but they can choose to ignore it. Their brains can override their body's warnings and force themselves to continue functioning. I found records of humans performing incredible feats while suffering from injuries that should have incapacitated them. They have run races on broken legs. They have fought battles with holes in their bodies. They simply refuse to stop. Zyrax stared at the xenobiologist. Why was none of this in the standard species registry? The information is classified. Earth is under observation quarantine. No species is supposed to contact humans directly. The Galactic Council is still debating how to handle them. Why the secrecy? Mirith hesitated. Because humans are also incredibly social. They form strong bonds with other species. They have domesticated countless creatures on their planet, including apex predators. They took wolves, dangerous pack hunters, and selectively bred them over thousands of years until they created a new species completely loyal to humans. They call these creatures dogs and keep them as companions. They tame predators? Cray sounded almost impressed. They tamed everything. The Council is terrified that if humans discover a galactic civilization, they will try to befriend every species they encounter. And based on their history, they will probably succeed. They are dangerously likable. The doors to the conference chamber suddenly opened, and Marcus Cole walked in carrying a tray of small cups. "Hey, everyone," he said cheerfully. "I noticed you were having a meeting and thought you might want some refreshments. I made coffee." Every single faculty member in the room froze. "Coffee?" Sealisk asked weakly. "Yeah, I found some beans in the kitchen that look similar to what we have on Earth. It is a little different, but still pretty good. I added some of that sweet stuff from the blue container. I think it is some kind of honey." "That is Vexery sedative nectar," Voris said slowly. "One drop can put a Crethan into a coma for a week." "Oh, really?" Marcus took a sip from his own cup. "Huh. That explains the nice relaxing feeling. Anyway, I will just leave these here. Let me know if you need anything else." He placed the tray on the table and walked out, humming a tune to himself. The faculty members stared at the coffee cups. Then they stared at each other. Then they stared at the door through which Marcus had disappeared. "He just drank enough sedative to kill a battleship crew," Morith whispered, and he described it as relaxing. Headmaster Zyrax looked at the data tablet in Mireth's hands, then at the door, then at his assembled faculty. These were the deadliest beings in the galaxy. They had trained thousands of assassins. They had killed countless targets and survived impossible situations. And for the first time in his very long life, Zyrax saw genuine fear in their eyes. "We need to contact Galactic Intelligence," he said finally. "I want to know everything about Earth. Everything about humans. And most importantly, I want to know how to make sure this one never considers us enemies." Nobody disagreed. The students at Voidfang Academy had begun to notice something strange about the human. At first, they had ignored Marcus Cole completely. He was small, soft, and clearly did not belong among the elite killers of the galaxy. Several students had planned to murder him during the first week, a common practice to eliminate weak competition. But somehow, those plans never came together. The students who tried to corner him always found him surrounded by faculty members. The ones who tried to poison his food discovered he had already eaten everything on his plate. It was almost like the universe itself was protecting him. And then came the sparring incident. Vorak was the largest Crethan in the academy. He stood 3 meters tall, with 8 armored limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. His exoskeleton was dark red, the color of dried blood, and his ancestors had been bred for war over 100 generations. He had killed 17 opponents in official duels and countless more unofficial ones. He hated Marcus Cole. He hated the way the humans smiled at everyone. He hated how the instructors treated Marcus with strange caution, almost like respect. He hated that this weak, pathetic creature was still alive when Vorak had worked so hard to become the deadliest student in the academy. "I challenged the human to a sparring match," Vorak announced during combat training. His voice echoed through the training hall like thunder. The other students immediately backed away. forming a circle. They knew what was coming. Vorak never sparred, he killed. The instructors usually stopped him before things went too far, but accidents happened, especially with weak opponents. Marcus looked up from the stretching exercises he had been doing. "Sure," he said. "Sounds fun. What are the rules?" "First to yield or fall unconscious," the combat instructor said quickly. She was a Vexary named Desik, and she was already calculating how to explain the human's death to the headmaster. No weapons. Physical combat only. Cool. Marcus walked to the center of the circle and faced Vorak. The size difference was almost comical. The massive Crethan towered over the small human like a mountain over a pebble. "I am going to enjoy this," Vorak growled. "I am going to tear you apart piece by piece. I am going to make you scream. Your species is nothing but prey animals, and today I will prove it." Marcus tilted his head. "You know, where I come from, we have a saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Ready when you are." Vorak roared and charged. What happened next would be discussed at the academy for years to come. Vorak was fast for his size. His 8 limbs propelled him forward like a living tank, claws extended, to rip the human in half. Any normal opponent would have tried to dodge or run. That was the instinct of prey, to flee from predators. Marcus did not run. Instead, he moved toward Vorak. He ducked under the first swing of those massive claws and grabbed one of the Crethan's forward limbs. His small human hands found the joint between the armored segments, the only weak point on a Crethan body. Then he twisted. The sound of cracking exoskeleton filled the training hall. Vorak screamed in pain and surprise. His charge completely stopped. Before he could recover, Marcus had already moved. He used Vorak's own momentum against him, pivoting and pulling until the massive Crethan flipped through the air. Vorak crashed into the ground with enough force to crack the stone floor. 3 of his limbs bent at angles that should have been impossible. He tried to rise, but Marcus was already on top of him, one foot pressing down on the joint of another limb. "I watch a lot of wrestling videos," Marcus explained calmly. "The thing about big opponents is they rely on their strength. But joints are joints, no matter how big you are. Apply the right pressure at the right angle, and physics does the rest." "Impossible," Vorak snarled. "You are nothing. You are prey." "Funny thing about humans," Marcus said, pressing down a little harder. "We were never really prey. We were just predators who did not look like predators. Our ancestors used to chase animals across entire continents. When we could not catch them, we built traps. When traps did not work, we invented weapons. When weapons were not enough, we learned to work together in groups. There was never anything on our planet that we could not kill if we decided it needed to die." He leaned closer to Vorak's face. "I have been real friendly since I got here. Vorak, I like being friendly, but I also want you to understand something. I am not scared of you. I am not scared of anyone here. I am just polite because that is how I was raised. Do not mistake kindness for weakness." "I yield," Vorak whispered. The words seemed to cause him physical pain. "I yield." Marcus stepped back and offered a hand to help Vorak up. The Crethan stared at the hand like it was a venomous snake. "No hard feelings, right?" Marcus asked. "You fought well. A little too aggressive for your own good, but you have got power. We should practice together sometime. I could show you some grappling techniques." Vorak did not take the hand. He crawled away on his remaining functional limbs, leaving a trail of blood on the training floor. The other students watched in absolute silence. Instructor Desik approached Marcus slowly. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "I wrestled in high school." Marcus shrugged. "Took some judo classes in college. Watched a lot of UFC fights. Nothing special." "Really? Nothing special?" Vesic repeated. Her voice was faint. You just defeated the most dangerous student in the academy in 11 seconds, and you call it nothing special? He was big and scary, but his technique was sloppy. Marcus picked up a towel and wiped his face. All power. No precision. If you cannot control your movements, size just makes you easier to throw. Basic physics. Vesic looked at the broken form of Varek being carried away by medical drones. Then she looked at the human who was now doing post-workout. Stretches like nothing had happened. What exactly are humans? She asked quietly. Marcus smiled that friendly, innocent smile that the faculty had grown to fear. We are just regular folks, he said. Nothing too exciting. Anyway, great class today. Same time tomorrow. He grabbed his water bottle and walked out of the training hall, leaving behind a room full of the galaxy's deadliest assassins. Not one of them moved until he was gone. Not one of them looked at each other. Not one of them would ever challenge Marcus Cole again. The word spread through the academy like fire. The human was not prey. The human was something else entirely, something the galaxy had never seen before. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the students of Voidfang Academy were afraid of one of their own classmates. Headmaster Zyrax made the call himself. The Galactic Intelligence Office was located somewhere beyond the Outer Rim, in a space station that officially did not exist. Getting a connection required 3 levels of security, clearance, and a personal favor from a crime Lord Zyrax had trained decades ago. But he needed answers. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to a creature so old that nobody remembered what species it had originally been. Layers of cybernetic implants covered most of its body, and its eyes glowed with the cold light of artificial intelligence. Headmaster Zyrax, the intelligence officer said, I wondered when you would call. I assume this is about the human? You knew? Zyrax demanded. You knew there was a human enrolled at my academy, and you said nothing? We have been monitoring the situation. So far, he has caused no problems. In fact, our analysis suggests he may be the most valuable student you have ever had. Valuable? Zyrax nearly choked. He is a disaster. He drinks poison for breakfast. He defeated our best fighter in 11 seconds. My faculty is terrified of him. As they should be. The intelligence officer tapped a control, and Zyrax's screen filled with data. Files, images, videos, all relating to Earth and humanity. Let me tell you about humans, Headmaster. Let me tell you why the Galactic Council classified Earth as a restricted zone. Let me tell you why every intelligent species in the known universe is very, very careful around these creatures. Zyrax leaned forward. Humans evolved as persistence predators on a Category 7 death world. You already know this, but you do not understand what it means. They did not become the dominant species on Earth because they were the strongest or fastest. They became dominant because they simply never stopped. Never stopped what? Anything. The officer's voice carried an edge of something that might have been fear. When humans want something, they pursue it until they get it or they die. Their ancestors would track prey for days without rest. Modern humans apply this same mentality to everything: science, war, exploration, relationships. They call it determination or stubbornness. We call it something else. What do you call it? Terrifying. The screen displayed a timeline of human history. Zyrax watched with growing horror as event after event scrolled past. Humans discovered nuclear fission and immediately built weapons that could destroy entire cities. Then they used those weapons on each other. Twice. You would think this would have taught them caution, but instead, they built more weapons, thousands of them. Enough to destroy their own planet several times over. They built weapons to destroy themselves? They did not intend to use them. It was a strategy they called mutual assured destruction. If everyone had enough weapons to kill everyone else, then nobody would attack. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. They avoided destroying their own species through pure madness. The timeline continued. Xyrax saw humans spreading across their planet, building vast civilizations, destroying them, and building new ones. He saw wars that killed millions, followed by periods of peace and innovation. He saw diseases that should have ended the species, followed by the development of medicines and vaccines. Every time they faced extinction, they found a way to survive. The officer explained. Every time they encountered an obstacle, they either went around it, through it, or simply waited until they could destroy it. They domesticated wolves and turned them into loyal companions. They built machines to fly when their bodies could not. They sent members of their own species into the vacuum of space in fragile metal containers. Why? Xyrax asked. Why would they risk so much? Because they wanted to. That is the most dangerous thing about humans. They do not need reasons. They see a mountain and want to climb it. They see an ocean and want to cross it. They see the stars and want to reach them. Curiosity and determination are hardwired into their brains. The officer paused. Do you know why Earth is under observation quarantine, Headmaster? It is not because humans are dangerous. Many species are dangerous. It is because humans are friendly. Friendly? They want to meet other species. They want to communicate, trade, form alliances. Every simulation we have run suggests that if humans discover galactic civilization, they will immediately try to befriend every species they encounter. And based on their history, they will succeed. They are incredibly good at forming bonds. How is that dangerous? Because humans are also incredibly protective of their friends. The officer's voice dropped. There are records of humans risking their lives for creatures that are not even their own species. They form emotional attachments to everything, animals, machines, even abstract concepts. And when something threatens what they love, they become violent beyond all reason. The screen showed footage of human soldiers in combat. Xyrax watched as small, soft creatures charged into situations that should have killed them instantly. He saw them fight through injuries that would have stopped any other species. He saw them carry wounded companions to safety while under fire. A human who considers you a friend will die for you. The officer said, but a human who considers you an enemy will not stop until one of you is destroyed. They invented war as a cultural institution. They have more words for violence than most species have for emotions. They are the most successful predators in their planet's history, precisely because they do not look like predators. Xyrax thought about Marcus Cole, his friendly smile, his casual conversation, his offers to share coffee and food. The human at my academy, he said slowly. He has been nothing but kind to everyone. Then you should pray it stays that way. The officer leaned closer to the screen. Right now, Marcus Cole sees your academy as a place of learning. He sees your faculty and students as colleagues. He brings them coffee and offers to help them train. He is a human in friend mode. And if that changes, then you will have a persistence predator hunting through your academy. A creature that does not sleep when it has a target. A creature that heals from wounds that would kill anyone else. A creature that will watch, learn, adapt, and never stop until it achieves its goal. The officer smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. My advice, Headmaster? Whatever Marcus Cole wants to do, let him do it. Whatever he wants to learn, teach him. And whatever you do, make absolutely certain that he never ever decides that you are his enemy. Because humans do not forgive. They do not forget. And they do not quit. The connection ended. Xyrax sat alone in his office, staring at the blank screen. Outside, he could hear students training, instructors shouting, weapons clashing. All the deadly sounds of his academy, the most dangerous school in the galaxy. And somewhere in that school, a small, soft creature from a backwater planet was probably making friends, sharing snacks, and smiling at everyone he met. Zyrax had never been more afraid in his entire life. Graduation day came faster than anyone expected. Marcus Cole had spent 6 months at the Void Fang Academy, and in that time, he had become the most famous student in its 3,000-year history. Not because he was the best assassin, his stealth scores were still terrible, and he could not master psychic shielding at all, but because somehow, impossibly, he had become popular. The Vexery students taught him shadow-walking techniques, and he taught them card tricks from Earth. The Marvathi shared their meditation methods, and he shared recipes for something called chocolate chip cookies that became an academy obsession. Even the Krethen respected him after the incident with Varric, who had eventually accepted Marcus's offer to train together and had become significantly more dangerous as a result. But now came the final test. The graduation exam is simple, Headmaster Zyrax announced to the assembled candidates. You will be dropped on hostile Moon 7. The faculty will hunt you for 30 standard days. If you survive, you pass. If you die, you fail. Any questions? Nobody had questions. This exam had been conducted the same way for centuries. The survival rate was usually around 40%. The candidates were loaded on the transport ships and scattered across the moon's surface. Hostile Moon 7 was exactly what its name suggested, a barren rock with a thin atmosphere, extreme temperature swings, and predatory creatures that had evolved in the harshest conditions imaginable. Most candidates immediately began implementing survival strategies. The Vexery turned invisible and hid. The Krethen found caves and fortified them. The Marvathi used psychic abilities to confuse the hunting faculty. Marcus Cole found a good spot near a water source and started building. By day 3, he had constructed a shelter from local materials. By day 5, he had figured out which local plants were edible after proper preparation. By day 7, he had started a fire using chemical compounds extracted from rocks. The hunting faculty found his camp on day 8 and approached with extreme caution. He has fortified the position, Instructor Cray reported over the communication channel. There are traps surrounding the perimeter. I count at least 12 different designs. Traps? Sealisk replied. What kind of traps? Primitive but effective. Pitfalls, snares, trigger mechanisms connected to falling rocks. 2 of our tracking drones have already been destroyed. This is the human we are discussing? The one who failed stealth training? He may be loud, but he is not stupid. This position is nearly impossible to assault directly. Headmaster Zyrax monitored the situation from his orbital command station. He watched as his faculty, the deadliest killers in the galaxy, circled Marcus's camp like nervous predators, uncertain about attacking. What is he doing now? Zyrax asked. The screen zoomed in on Marcus. He was sitting by his fire, cooking something in a metal container he had apparently made from debris. Around him, several of the moon's native predators were lounging peacefully. Are those razor wolves? Zyrax demanded. Why are there razor wolves in his camp? He has been feeding them, Cray reported, her voice filled with disbelief. He shares his food with them every night. They have started following him around. I think they are guarding his perimeter. He domesticated the local predators in 8 days? It appears so, Headmaster. He also seems to have made friends with a colony of tunnel crawlers. They've been alerting him whenever we approach from underground. Zyrax rubbed his eyes with all 4 hands. Of course, the human had befriended the wildlife. Of course, he had built a fortress. Of course, he was treating the deadly survival exam like some kind of camping trip. The hunt continued for another 4 days. The faculty tried every approach they could think of: direct assault, stealth infiltration, psychological warfare, environmental manipulation. Nothing worked. Marcus's traps claimed 3 more instructors. His Razorwolf companions drove off 2 assassination attempts. When Sealisk tried to use psychic attacks, Marcus somehow sensed her presence and threw a rock that knocked her unconscious from 50 meters away. "Lucky shot," Marcus called out cheerfully. "Sorry about that. Are you okay?" On day 12, Headmaster Xerax made a decision. End the exam. He ordered, "Bring all candidates back to the academy." "But there are still 18 days remaining," his assistant protested. "The human has already passed. He has not just survived, he has thrived. He has turned a hostile environment into a home. He has converted predators into allies. He has defended against every assault we could mount. There is nothing more we can teach him." The transport ships were dispatched. Candidates were collected from across the moon's surface, some injured, some barely alive, many simply grateful to have survived. When the ship arrived at Marcus's camp, he greeted the pilots with a wave. "Hey, great timing. I just made soup. Want some?" The graduation ceremony was held 3 days later. Marcus Cole stood among the surviving candidates, wearing the same friendly smile he had worn since the day he arrived. The other graduates kept their distance, not from hostility, but from respect. They had all heard the stories. They had all seen the recordings. Traditionally, Headmaster Xerax addressed the assembly. "I would present diplomas and send you into the galaxy as trained assassins. But this year, we have something unusual to acknowledge." He turned to Marcus. "Marcus Cole, you arrived at this academy by accident. You had no training, no natural weapons, no abilities that would suggest you belonged here. By every standard measure, you should have failed. And yet," Xerax continued, "you consumed poisons that would have killed anyone else. You defeated our strongest student in single combat. You survived the graduation exam not by hiding or running, but by building a fortress and taming the local predators. You made friends with creatures that wanted to eat you." Marcus shrugged. "People and animals usually respond well to kindness. It is not that complicated. That is precisely what makes you terrifying." Xerax handed Marcus his diploma. "You do not think you are special. You consider your abilities normal, and that means there are billions more like you on your planet." "Well, yeah." Marcus smiled. "Humans are pretty adaptable. We can make ourselves at home anywhere." Xerax looked at the human, this small, soft, endlessly friendly creature who had accidentally enrolled in an assassin academy and somehow changed everything. "Go home, Marcus Cole," Xerax said. "Go back to your planet and your wife and your accounting job. And please, tell your species that the galaxy is not ready for them yet. We need time to prepare." "Prepare for what?" "For the day when humans decide to explore the stars. Because on that day, nothing in the universe will ever be the same." Marcus laughed. "You worry too much. Humans are mostly harmless." Behind him, every faculty member and student who had witnessed the past 6 months exchanged knowing glances. Mostly harmless. That was the most frightening thing they had ever heard. Marcus Cole returned to Earth, resumed his accounting career, and occasionally told stories about his interesting semester abroad that nobody believed. But in the darkest corners of the galaxy, among criminals and assassins and those who dealt in death, a new rule emerged. Never threaten a human. Never harm their friends. And whatever you do, never give them a reason to hunt you. Because humans do not stop. Humans do not quit. And humans always find a way.